Andrew Jackson, the seventh President of the United States, was one of the most influential and controversial figures in American history. Born on March 15, 1767, in the Waxhaws region on the border between North and South Carolina, Jackson would grow up to become a military hero, a populist leader, and a president who reshaped the nation's political landscape. His presidency, which lasted from 1829 to 1837, marked a period of profound change in the United States, one that set the stage for the modern political system. Andrew Jackson's early life was one of hardship and adversity. He was born to Scots-Irish immigrants, Andrew and Elizabeth Jackson, who were living in the backwoods of the American colonies. His father died shortly before he was born, and Jackson's mother struggled to support her family. The hardships of frontier life, combined with the loss of both his mother and brother during the American Revolution, would shape Jackson's fierce independence and resilience. By the age of 13, Jackson had become an orphan, and he was raised by relatives. Jackson's leadership in the Battle of Horseshoe Bend in 1814 was instrumental in the defeat of the Creeks, and it earned him a reputation as a formidable military leader. His victory was critical in securing American control over much of the Southeast, and was a key moment in his rise to national prominence. However, it was Jackson's leadership during the Battle of New Orleans in 1815, at the end of the War of 1812, that truly cemented his status as a national hero. With a ragtag group of soldiers, including regulars, militia, pirates, and free blacks, Jackson achieved a decisive victory over the British forces, who had come to capture the city. Although the battle took place after the Treaty of Ghent had already been signed, the news had not reached the combatants in time, making it a clear and resounding victory for the United States. Jackson's success at New Orleans made him a household name, and his reputation as a bold and determined leader helped propel him into politics. His military career gave him the nickname Old Hickory, symbolizing his tough, unyielding nature. Jackson's military success translated into political popularity, and in 1824 he ran for the presidency for the first time. However, despite winning a plurality of both the popular vote and the electoral vote, he was not able to secure a majority. The election was ultimately decided by the House of Representatives, which chose John Quincy Adams as president. Jackson's supporters were outraged by what they perceived as a corrupt bargain between Adams and Henry Clay, who was Speaker of the House at the time. This marked the beginning of a deep division in American politics, and Jackson vowed to return in the next election. The 1828 presidential election was a watershed moment in American politics. Jackson ran again, this time with a populist appeal. His campaign emphasized his outsider status, portraying him as a man of the people who had risen from humble beginnings. His opponent, incumbent President John Quincy Adams, was depicted as an elitist who had been out of touch with the needs of ordinary Americans. Jackson's campaign was characterized by intense personal attacks, especially against Adams and his supporters. The election of 1828 was one of the dirtiest in American history, with both sides using smear tactics to discredit each other. Jackson, however, emerged victorious in a landslide, winning 56% of the popular vote and a commanding majority in the Electoral College. Jackson's presidency marked a dramatic shift in American politics. He is often associated with the rise of the common man and the expansion of democracy. Under Jackson, the power of the executive branch grew significantly, and the federal government began to align more closely with the interests of the people rather than the elite. One of Jackson's first acts as president was the implementation of the spoils system, which rewarded political supporters with government positions. While this practice was not entirely new, Jackson institutionalized it to an unprecedented degree, replacing many officials in the federal government with his loyal followers. This approach, while controversial, helped solidify his control over the administration and ensured that his policies would be carried out. Jackson was also known for his firm stance on issues of national importance. His most notable policy was his opposition to the Bank of the United States, which he believed was an instrument of the wealthy elite and an unconstitutional concentration of power. In 1832, Jackson vetoed the recharter of the bank, claiming it was corrupt and unfairly benefited the rich. This act of defiance against the institution was a hallmark of his presidency and earned him both support and criticism. Jackson's presidency also witnessed the implementation of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. This policy aimed to relocate Native American tribes from their ancestral lands in the southeastern United States to territories west of the Mississippi River. Jackson argued that the policy was necessary for the growth of the nation, but it resulted in the forced relocation and suffering of thousands of Native Americans, including the infamous Trail of Tears, which led to the deaths of thousands during the winter journey. Jackson's relationship with Native Americans was one of the most controversial aspects of his presidency. While he viewed the removal policy as a way to provide Native Americans with an opportunity to preserve their culture and traditions away from encroaching settlers, the forced relocation led to immense suffering and loss of life. Andrew Jackson's legacy is a subject of intense debate. On the one hand, he is remembered as a champion of democracy and a defender of the common man. His opposition to the Bank of the United States, his expansion of suffrage to all white men, and his aggressive use of presidential power helped shape the modern political landscape. Jackson is often credited with laying the groundwork for the Democratic Party as it exists today. On the other hand, his policies toward Native Americans, his support for slavery, and his use of executive power to bypass legislative checks on his authority have led many to criticize his presidency. Jackson's implementation of the Indian Removal Act, in particular, is viewed as one of the darkest chapters of his time in office. His actions led to the displacement and death of thousands of Native Americans, a legacy that continues to haunt his reputation. Jackson's impact on American politics, however, is undeniable. He transformed the presidency into a more populist and powerful office, setting the stage for future leaders to expand the role of the executive branch. His presidency also marked the rise of political parties and the emergence of a two-party system that has dominated American politics ever since. In conclusion, Andrew Jackson was a complex and polarizing figure whose actions shaped the United States in both positive and negative ways. His leadership in the military, his rise to political power, and his presidency were pivotal moments in the nation's history. While his legacy remains contentious, there is little doubt that Jackson was one of the most important and influential figures in the history of the United States. Whether seen as a champion of democracy or a perpetrator of injustice, Andrew Jackson's impact on the nation cannot be overstated. Please like and subscribe for more content.